Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is cRPG and we are back to talk a little bit about Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. So, this is actually take number 2 because I tried recording this video previously and I just went on and on and on about a lot of things, so I want to make it a little bit shorter. In any case, I'm making this video right after finishing the game, so my first playthrough blind of this game just finished. So I'm making this video to share some thoughts about what I found about the game, kind of like a review and just, you know, my general opinion about certain things in the game. So to start off, I will talk about the ending of the game, because this is something that I know that a lot of people have some trouble with. And I guess what I saw the most from comments is people saying that they think that the end of the game is underwhelming. And I understand why people say this. And also to talk a little bit about that. So when I finished the game, I went to Ukaizo with my party, without any kind of alliance, just our party. I went up to Aethys and basically went along with this plan. So he had the idea of breaking the wheel of reincarnation. He had the idea of exposing the gods and basically make it so that Kith would need to stand up for themselves and just live on without having to be under the control of these gods. And I do understand that feeling, and I think his motivations were correct. So just went along with it, and the ending to me made sense. Now, I did go back and I loaded a previous save just to check if it was possible to actually fight Aethys. This is something that I never even considered would be something possible, because, I mean, we're talking about a god inhabiting a other giant. So I don't think it would really be much of a fight. The guy endures Magran's wrath, he endures Ondra's wrath, and whatever else is thrown at him. It's not gonna be us that are going to be able to stop him in combat. So it never really felt to me, at least from when we saw the dimension of that guy, I never really considered that this would actually be a fight in the game. In any case, I loaded back my final save, which is just when we are talking with Aethys at the ending. And I tried forcing combat, and basically the game just ends. So Aethys kills you or sucks out your soul and the game finishes. So yeah, there is basically no gameplay element where you get to fight Aethys. To a lot of people, I can imagine why that would be disappointing. I mean, you are playing this huge game. Throughout the entire game, we're talking about chasing Aethys. That's what Berath wants us to do right from the get-go. And everything leading up to facing off against Aethys, and then you don't have a choice to actually fight him. So I get that people are upset about it and kind of disappointed with it. We usually expect some kind of big boss fight at the end of the game. And it's not the case here. You don't really have a choice for it. So yeah, I can understand why people say that. To me, I didn't have a problem with it, because like I said, I think that the ending is appropriate. I never really expected to fight Aethys anyway, so that wasn't really an issue for me. What is an issue for me regarding the end of the game is not so much Aethys, but I'm just moving around because. But it's mostly something else. I'm actually gonna go here for my ship, just so we can talk about it a little bit. And it's regarding Ukaizo. So, after a certain point in the game, you start getting a lot of references to Ukaizo. You start getting quests where you have to hunt for clues and hints about lore related to Ukaizo. It's very secretive. It's an ancient Huana city that got blown up by the cataclysm. So everything is building up Ukaizo the entire time you're playing. And even while you're exploring the Deadfire Archipelago, and I explored everything I could, you still see this section of the map which is covered by Fog of War, which, in my opinion, or in my understanding, is Ukaizo. So over here is where Ukaizo lies. So after playing a game where you explore this entire map, which is a very large area, you explore a bunch of islands, you do a lot of quests, you get so much talk about Ukaizo and making it seem special. And while I was playing, I was thinking, oh, okay, right, so once we get to that chapter in the game, we're still gonna have this entire section of the map to explore. And this might not seem like a very big area compared to this, but just look at the size of Neketaka here. You can fit like, what, 10, 20 Neketakas in this area? So this is actually a very large portion of the map. And yeah, I was expecting to reach this area and still have a bunch of islands to explore, a bunch more fights, a lot of quests, stuff like that. And the reality is, once you cross this section, you get a warning that there's a point of no return. The game actually makes a pre-end game save, which is actually quite cool and useful. It's actually the save game I loaded to make this video. But yeah, once you cross this, you reach Ukaizo, you have what? You have like a fight against the Guardian of Ukaizo, which is basically the last boss fight of the game. And after that, Ukaizo is essentially 3 or 4 areas. The game is just by itself moving back to my focus. You have 3 or 4 areas in Ukaizo where you basically just have some dialogue options, you talk to your companions, and then you reach Aethys and the game ends. So, what is the point of this gigantic section of the map unexplored if you just get 3 sections, 3 small sections, without basically any combat, and the game ends? This to me is the disappointment and the underwhelming part about the ending of Deadfire. Why isn't this something for me to play in? That's what I'm mostly sad about. Let's go back over here. So, before I get on with a lot of details, I don't want to focus too much on the details. I would say that if anyone wants my opinion about some specific aspect of the game, leave a comment and I'll talk to you about it. Because if I get too much into details, this is going to be like a 4-hour video and it's going to be very confusing. So I do want to start by talking a little bit about the quests. And I will talk about them in a very macro way. So in PoE2 Deadfire, you have a lot of quests to do, as we can see here. A lot of them. And that's not a problem to me. I love having this amount of quests. I loved going through pretty much all of these quests. I think it makes the world always feel active. It's never empty. You go to all kinds of different islands and you find them unique. You have unique dungeons, you have unique people living there, certain settings, unique lore. So I think the way that the quests are spread out, the way that the islands are built, the various dungeons, stuff like that, I think it's really well done, so that the player can explore them. Everything feels fresh, everything feels worth exploring, and it's always a fun experience. So I do like the way the quests are built. So we have the main quest here, which I think is like the least interesting part about the game, which is kind of interesting to say. It reminds me of Skyrim, to be honest. When I played Skyrim, God knows how many years ago, I felt like the main story was very underwhelming and very short, but where the true value of Skyrim was in the side quests and the factions and stuff like that. And it's basically the same thing here. So, in Deadfire, the main quest is, oh, there goes Aethys, he's destroying everything and he wants to do something mysterious. So the gods are telling me to go after it. And yeah, so you go after Aethys. That's the quest. That's the main story. Go after Aethys. Understand what he's doing and then reach a final conclusion. That's it. So, yeah, that's not where the true value of PoE2 lies. The true value of this game is, just like I was talking about Skyrim, in all of the side quests, all of the optional stuff, all of the factions. So I will close these out. This is the main quest, and these are 3 DLCs. I'll talk about them in a bit. The factions, where you have the Juana, the Principe, the Valiant Trading Company, and the Royal Deadfire Company. I think these factions are well done. Their lore, the way they fit in with the setting and the world, makes sense to me. I like the way they are built. I like that neither of them are either truly good or truly evil. They're all kind of in a gray area. Well, except maybe the pirates. But they are well done. Their quests are cool. I loved exploring them. So yeah, and this is where a lot of the world building goes into, and what really makes this game, the story about the game, function well. I think this is what makes it happen. So very well done on the factions here. And then, you know, you have a bunch of side quests over here and a bunch of tasks which involve, you know, various quests from various people, a bunch of bounties. And I think it's really well done. It's well spread out. I enjoyed very much. Well done, Obsidian. In terms of the DLCs, we have Seeker Slayer Survivor, which I'm gonna save for last. We have the Beast of Winter, which is an enjoyable DLC. I liked it. I think it has interesting boss fights, especially throughout the DLC. I like the idea of the setting. I like the lore. I like the fact that you get to explore Rimmergen's realm. But there are some gameplay elements that I don't enjoy that much. All that stuff about the portal puzzles and whatnot, it just feels a little bit eh. And I also feel that this quest doesn't really fit in with the main story. That's not a problem per se. I know that a lot of people need the DLCs to fit in with the main story. Because sometimes, like in PoE1, people say, oh, the White March is cool, but it doesn't make sense. You're stopping your main quest midway to go and do something else on a distant place for no reason at all. And I get it. I understand that logic. But to me, dude, it's just a different area. There's quests, there's stuff to do. There's more Pillars of Eternity for me to play in a fun setting. I'm gonna enjoy it. I don't really need it to fit in perfectly with the main story. But I am referencing this because especially the way it compares with other DLCs like the Forgotten Sanctum. So yeah, it's a cool DLC. Some gameplay elements didn't like that much, but I did enjoy it overall. And I do feel it's a little bit sidetracked from the main story, but that's perfectly okay for me. Then we get the Forgotten Sanctum. And I will say that the Forgotten Sanctum, for me, is basically one of my favorite areas in the entire game. Okay? So I think it's really well done. I think this is what a DLC should be. It's basically, I don't want to say perfect, because there's probably something that doesn't make it perfect, but it was truly an excellent addition to the game. It's very well done. All of the areas are enjoyable. It's not super short. It's not super long. The quests make sense. It actually fits in with the main story, which just makes it better. You can actually use the idea of Whale's Titan body to help fight against Aethys. So that makes sense to me. It fits in. It's a very compelling lore. I love the fact that they're picking up on something that I love in the Pillars universe, which are the Archmages. There's a lot of talk about, you know, Tain, Lengrath, Ninagoth, Arkemir, Consulhot, but at the same time, there's not that many gameplay elements with the Archmages in the base game, and I think this DLC made it just a very good experience where you get to interact with several of those Archmage NPCs. It's very interesting. Tane was very fun, for example. I hadn't met him before. The quests make sense. The DLC is packed full of challenges, engaging fights, which I loved as well. It's very pretty, the area makes sense, you get some extra insight into WoW. It's just, I don't know, I could go on and on as to why I love this DLC. But yeah, I love it. Out of all three, this is the best one, and it's, in my opinion, one of the best DLCs I've ever played in any game. Honestly, ever. So yeah, very, very good. When I play this game again, which I will, because I want to get Triple Crown for it, and every single other playthrough that I do of this game, I am gonna play through the Forgotten Sanctum. Something that cannot be said about the last DLC, Seeker Slayer Survivor. So, this DLC, I think, is a welcome addition to the game, but this is something that I would consider basically separate, almost. So, for those of you who've played Baldur's Gate, especially the Enhanced Editions, there's something that Beamdog added to the game, which is like the Black Pits. It's basically this DLC, but separate from the game. So like you're in the main menu and you can choose, oh, I want to play the main story or I want to play Seeker Slayer Survivor. That's what I think this should be done as well. Because this DLC, you have a little bit of story to give it some background, but it's very... At least to me, it was very uninteresting. I didn't enjoy the characters. I hated the stupid ghost that comes for you, the Muatu or whatever his name is. He was trying to be funny all the time, and he was never funny. But yeah, okay. So regardless of the NPCs, this DLC is basically extra combat challenges. So, if you finish the game and you want to play some more Pillars of Eternity and you want to have some different fights, especially if you like, I don't know, more challenging fights, maybe with some gimmicks mixed in, this is DLC for you. But this is something that I consider almost separate from the game, because you go into an arena and then you queue up to a specific fight. It doesn't tie in with the story at all. It's very combat intensive. There's no lore to it, basically. So I did all of the content just so I could see it, but I'm probably not gonna play it again. You get some unique items out of it, you get some experience, but overall I think it's a very weak DLC. It's just something that if someone has finished the game and just wants to play some more in specific fights, they can do it, but otherwise it's not very interesting, honestly. But yeah, so talking about the quests and in-game is complete. Let's go over our characters. So this was my core party. This is basically a party that got set up kind of early in the game. Basically, when I picked up Takehu, I locked my core party for the entire playthrough. Didn't really play too much with the other characters because of the weird mechanics that exist in the game regarding experience. So if I want to take somebody out of the party to do, for example, a recommended companion quest, it would mean I would have to bench one companion, which happened with Takehu, for example. And then what it means is I go do that quest with another companion, and when I want to bring Takehu back into the party, he's underleveled. And that's just very annoying to me. It means that I can't really play with my companions the way that I would like it to. So, yeah. In any case, these are the companions I played with the most. I completed all of their quests. I liked their quests very much. I like their personalities. I like the way they engage with each other. Even if this over here... I mean, this system exists, but I don't even really understand why it exists. It's... I don't know, it's lore, it's flavor, I suppose, but it doesn't do anything. It's like, these two don't like each other, so what? Does it matter? I don't know if it matters. I have a good relationship with all of them, basically. Does it matter? I don't know. I think maybe you get to complete their quests if the reputation is high enough. Or in Shori's case, you get to date her, which is cool, I suppose. But overall, I think the reputation system is mostly flavor. It doesn't really matter all that much. But yeah, so let's go over our characters here. And we're gonna start our main companion here, or our main character, sorry, which is me, Cordant. And I am a level 20 scout. Also, something to be said about the levels. We obtained level 20 a very long time ago. So the game, especially with the DLCs, has tons and tons of experience for you to play with. So we've been level 20, I don't even remember how long, but for a very long time. But yeah, so we're a scout, which means we are a ranger and rogue multi-class. And within those classes, I chose to specialize in sharpshooter and assassin. Okay, so sharpshooter for ranger, assassin for rogue. The race is the Earth Orlan. This doesn't matter. These are my attributes. I'm just showing it off for someone that might want to know the build. Do keep in mind that these attributes are influenced by buffs that I currently have on. So for example, my resolve is actually 3. But I have 2 more from alchemic wits and 1 more from being an Orlan. Intellect, same thing, I have a buff to increase it. Same thing for perception, I have gear and buffs. Same thing here, same thing here, and same thing here. Okay? As for my skills, it's very simple for this character. I basically went for mechanics and stealth. He's a rogue, it makes sense to me, and you do need somebody to disarm traps in this game. So, I'm the rogue, I'm gonna take care of that issue. As for my passive skills, I mostly went for streetwise to get some dialogue options, but it didn't really matter all that much, honestly. So yeah, that's what I chose. My current effects, I'm not gonna go through them one by one. If you guys want, you can pause the video and look over what I have currently. I'm just showing it off over here. Which are a lot of them. Okay. For the weapon proficiencies, I went for the Archipus, Blunderbuss, Hunting Bow, Pistol, Rod, Scepter, this is already there, and the Warbow. Honestly, out of all of these, I think the only thing that really interests here, or that interested my playthrough, was the Archipus and the Hunting Bow, essentially. Because Archipus, you have the aimed shot, making it so you have extra accuracy with Archipus, but you are slower. And while using the red hand, this was a factor during the entire game, basically. I never used Blunderbuss, I never used the Rod. I used the Scepter a little bit to have some blunt damage against skeletons, but that's it. I never used an armed, I basically never used the Warbow. So, yeah. The Hunting Bow was actually useful because of the Essence Interrupter. But that's basically it. So yeah, the real proficiencies here would probably be, if I had to choose them again, Archipus, Hunting Bow, Pistol, that's all. Maybe Warbow if I wanted to play with the Frost Seeker. So this one here. Let's go back over here. Okay. As for the abilities, the same thing I said before. If you guys want to check it out, feel free to pause the video and look over these, which is what's enabled. We can also see the level ups that we have. So the Sharpshooter, Boar Companion, stuff like Gunner, Marksman, all of that stuff. Same thing for the Rogue. Oh, we also have Mr. Piggy. Hehe. This is what Mr. Piggy had. And these are his abilities. Okay. So next, and I'm gonna do the next ones a little bit faster. Going to Adair, I chose to multi-class Adair into a swashbuckler because I like the idea of having a fighter rogue. Especially some of the abilities here. For example, Riposte seemed really cool to me. Not actually sure how much this went into play, but I like the idea of it. I love this one. Persistent Distraction just gives me one more enemy engaged and makes people engaged by me distracted, which is a very cool debuff, honestly. They get flanked and they get minus perception. Very cool. And then we just have like deep wounds. We have death blows for more damage. And that's mostly it. So the rogue tree is basically the passives, almost no active abilities. And then on the fighter side is where most of the stuff is. Because, you know, he's a tank for us. He's a sword and board character. So that's where the meat of his abilities lie. In any case, attributes are his default attributes. Like, he's not a mercenary, so this is what he comes with. And it's perfectly fitting. You don't need any more than this. Adair works perfectly as a companion throughout the entire game. There's a lot of people that say that, oh, but the main companions in the game are undertuned or are not properly maximized, so they suck. I disagree. Yeah, you can build mercenaries to be better than the companions, but it's not needed. I wouldn't go for the trouble of it. I like playing with his quest and his, you know, the banter and stuff like that. To me, it's a lot more enjoyable playing with companions than with mercenaries. And you... what's the word I'm looking for? And you can be safe knowing that the main companions, the main story companions, are perfectly capable of doing their jobs throughout the game. Active skills on him, I went for Athletics and Survival. Just for dialogue options, basically. Current effects, as I said before, if you guys want to check it out, you can pause the video here and look through them. And then we also have some more over here, these three. For the weapon proficiencies, I went for all of these, but I mostly been playing with the flail because I love this. The unbalancing strikes, lowering reflex on hit, is extremely useful. Extremely useful. The same thing goes for the club and also the Morning Star, but those are weapons I was not using on it there. But yeah, mostly unbalancing strikes is what I used, and the medium shield to block. That's basically it. Abilities, you can look at them here. I guess I can show them a little bit better when we go to the records, but yeah. Tekehu. So Adair, distant I didn't refer. So my scout is basically my main DPS character. This character is all about damage. And we can see it in the Constitution and Reflex and Resolve scores. These are very low. He has high might, dexterity, perception, and even intellect. He's meant to kill. That's all he's about. We also have some utility in the forms of mechanics, but this is kind of like out of combat stuff. But yeah, this is just killing potential. Adair, on the other hand, is mostly tanking duty. This guy is our frontline. He's the one taking in all of the attention of the enemies at the start of the fight. If they focus on Adair and not on my backline, that's what we want, and we get to be very, very happy. Tekehu, on the other hand, I made him a Thurge, so I made him a multi-class between Chanter and Druid, in this case a Storm Speaker and a Water Shaper. His attributes are what you can see here. Like I said, I didn't even bother looking over these. He's perfectly capable of doing his job. I went for Arcana and History. Arcana just so I'm able to cast spells from scrolls. So if I need a heal, if I need to revive the fallen, and Shoti went down, having Arcana on other characters makes it so they can also do those duties, which I think is incredibly useful, and it has saved our lives previously in tough situations. So I'm very happy about picking Arcana here and also on these two. Current effects, there you go. Weapon proficiencies, they didn't matter because I had them as an off tank. I think it kind of works to some extent, but not that much. He cannot take a lot of damage. That is much better than him. But in any case, I was playing him as a off tank because I was also using this scimitar here that basically gives everybody in the party a buff when he has phrases held. So yeah, just made him like a tiny off tank. This didn't really matter. I never activated my saber model, for example. Abilities, we have them here. We can go for all of the stuff down here. Druid stuff. There you go. So that's the Keho. Going for Shoti. So Shoti, out of all the characters we've seen thus far, is my first pure class. So she is a single class priest, in this case a Harvester of Gone. And, you know, her stats are what we can see here. Again, perfectly capable of doing her job. Skills, I went for Arcana. Same reason as Tekehu, I like being able to cast spells from scrolls. And also Religion. Religion is useful for dialogue options. It also scales some of her gear. So it's a very basic choice here. Current effects. There you go. Weapon proficiencies. The only one that really mattered is the club one, Bewildering Blows. When she hits somebody with her club, she lowers their will score. So she was also kind of a tiny off tank. So main tank can take a lot of damage. These two are caster supports and can also do a little bit of off tanking duty. Because the ones we need to protect are my squishies here in the back line. So yeah, she's basically my priest. She is responsible for buffing us, for healing us, making us safe overall, while also having some nuking capabilities for the enemies and also some debuffing capabilities. These are her abilities. We can see them all here. And there we are. So yeah, Shoti is basically caster support with some off-tanking duties. Tekehu, same thing, caster support with some off-tanking duties. He actually heals more than Shoti, amazingly, but it's more of a passive healing, not so much like a heal, like this ability, for example.
What can I do you for?
This is just a straight-up static heal, while Tekehus are mostly, you know, overtime healing. But overall, Tekehu heals more. He's a better healer than Shoti. Or maybe I should say, druids are better healers overall than priests. Finally, we have Aloth. So Aloth, by the way, Aloth and Adair were also present in my core party in PoE1. I also made him a pure wizard. Because I love wizards, I think they are incredibly powerful, so I wanted them to get access to all of his major level spells. Might score, attributes, perfectly capable of doing his job. Skills, I went for Arcana, same reasoning as these two, and I went for Metaphysics, just for dialogue options. There are some items that actually scale with some of these skills, but I didn't really bother with that too much. Current effects, we can see them here. Weapon proficiencies, here they are. And again, in his case, it basically didn't matter. I think I used the Scepter ability for a while at the start of the game, and then I never used it again. So it didn't really matter all that much. Abilities, let's look at them here. Wizard spells. And there we are. Okay, so now let's go over our character records, because this is something that I know a lot of you like seeing. So, my character here, Cordant, he's the one that spent the most time in the party, I believe. He defeated... Is this the ones that he personally defeated? Yeah, okay. So he killed 1,263 enemies. The most powerful enemy defeated was the Memory Hoarder. So this is actually an enemy in the Forgotten Sanctum DLC. He's a boss, basically. Total damage done, 529,073. Awesome. Highest single target damage, 301. He dealt 3,765 crits, 14,000 hits, and he took 12,000 damage. He got knocked out 11 times. He's very squishy, so this is kind of expected. I'm gonna go over the party. Actually, I'm gonna go over the party right now, because then we can compare it to the personal stats. So, total enemies defeated was 3,100. So I'm responsible for basically more than 1/3 of the enemy kills. Cool. The most powerful enemy defeated was by Aloth, Cisak. Cisak was the most powerful one? Interesting. This was a... Oh god, I want to say Mind Flayer. It's not a Mind Flayer. He's a Vithrak. A Vithrak boss, also in the Forgotten Sanctum. Apparently Aloth got the last hit. The most time in the party was Eder, because it's the first companion we pick up. And he's my best friend. Most enemies defeated, my rogue. Most total damage done, my rogue. This is kind of impressive, actually. I was expecting Aloth to be the one with the most total damage done, because he has so much AoE. And in PoE1, Aloth won in this regard. Not the case here. Highest single target damage, also by myself, 302. Most crits, also by myself. Most hits was Shoti. I'm guessing because she hits allied companions as well. Most damage taken Eder, naturally. And most times knocked out, me. Okay, I'm the squishier one, so it makes sense. There was also a fight in the Forgotten Sanctum where... That's the one where we came closest to also losing the game. Was right there, because I got knocked out 3 times. If I got knocked out one more time, the game would be over. Well, we're not playing in Trial of Iron. It wouldn't be much of an issue, but still. So, looking at Aloth. Yeah, look at this. I killed 1,200 enemies. He killed half that. So, 617. Total damage done, 300,000. Wow, really? Only 300,000? I am very surprised about this. I thought he would have done a lot more. With the missile salvos and all of the AoE damage he deals. Wow. Okay, interesting. Well, highest single target damage, 282, probably from a delayed blast fireball. 3,400 crits. Yeah, almost the same. 11,000 hits, damage taken, 34... so 34,000 damage taken. I think this is mostly because of self-damage. When he uses improved alacrity... Not improved alacrity. I'm just all over Baldur's Gate right now. Or is that a name? What?
Yes?
Deleterious alacrity of motion. This drains health over time. I think that's why he took so much damage there. And he got knocked out 4 times. Looking at Shoti, she killed 252 enemies, so significantly less. Most powerful enemy defeated Nightmare Shade. She dealt 100,000 damage. Highest single target damage 161. This is from her Harvest skill. This one here. Which I rarely use, honestly. She critted 828 times, she dealt 15,000 hits basically, and she took 20,000 damage. Times knocked out, 2. Going for Takehu, he killed 216 enemies, wow. Less than Shori. That's kind of amazing. Most powerful Nightmare Shade as well. He dealt 100,000 damage. Highest single target 156. Probably from a tornado. 750 crits, 11,000 hits, damage taken 20,000, knocked out twice. And finally, going for Eder, he killed 206, also Nightmare Shade. This is silly, by the way. Total damage done 74,000, 83 highest single target, 304 crits, 10,000 hits, and he took 43,000 damage, got knocked out 3 times. Okay, very cool. And now, very briefly, we're gonna go over the export. Oh, wait, can I not do it? Oh, because I think when you come over here, you can check out. I mean, you can do this anywhere. Okay, so let's just do this then. So yeah, for Eder, this was my build. And I will say, this is not some kind of metagaming build. This is not optimized in the slightest. This is just stuff that I liked using, and I picked up the skills. I basically never used Clear Out, for example. Didn't use this that much either. Didn't use this that much either. But yeah, these were my choices, and they were perfectly capable for the entire game. In terms of the rogue side, like we've seen before, only have these two, and then it's just basically passives. The most important ones are Dirty Fighting, Riposte, Persistent Distraction, and that's it. Then Deep Wounds and Death Blows are just for damage. Looking over Takehu, this one, for example, is all over the place. I'm not really sure how to build this character, but it worked, so I'm pleased. This is his chanter side. In terms of chants, I basically went for support for my backline and especially my rogue, with sure-handed Ila as well as Aphilath Wes Mithfir. So fire lash on my weapons and, you know, improved action speed and reload time. And then basically nothing here. I didn't use much of this. I probably should have used more of the Sacre Bleu skill. This one actually was useful sometimes, but not that much. This one is useful especially with the scimitar to just deal some nice chunks of damage. Reducing armor class, or sorry, armor rating. Came up a few times, cool. But the druid side is really where his powerful stuff is, in my opinion. He has a lot of healing. He has healing here, 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 and here. So a lot of healing there. I love the stuff he picks up just because of his subclass. All of this stuff is useful. Like, all of it is useful. And then the passives, well, there you go. I have Sword and Shield just because I was off-tanking sometimes. And then I had just have Penetration on Lightning, Frost, extra healing, and make him cast faster. That's basically it. Very simple. For Shori, single class, so only one screen. These are the spells that I selected. Overall, I think I'm happy with my spell choices. At most, I think I like this one more on paper than in practice. I never actually used this. Because I do like the fact that we have Tenacious here. But I think this should have been Barring Death's Door, or maybe even a Shining Beacon. Not this one here. But other than that, I liked everything I picked up. I think this is unnecessary. It's redundant. We have a lot of damage already, so this is not needed. I like this one mostly as a clutch heal rather than damage. Always very good. This one is very good. This one is excellent. I like the nukes. I like the self buff. Yeah, just overall, I think everything I chose here was a good choice for my playstyle. Yeah, that's basically it about Shori. Looking over Aloth, again, single class. So there's a lot of stuff we could talk about spells. I will just say that I like my spell choices, given that he is mostly a control wizard with some damage. And what I mean by this is we have disabling options in Chill Fog and Slicken, over here, for example. We have Arcane Dampener, again, to debuff, Confusion to debuff, Tentacles to just get some summons on the ground, debuff, debuff, disable, disable, debuff, disable, and just damage. So yeah. So basically what we have here is a bunch of buffs, self-buffs, which I basically used at the start of every fight. Infused with Vital Essence, Spirit Shield, Merciless Gaze. Then we have Alacrity and Iron Skin. I always use these, just get them safe at the start of the fight, and then we can cast our spells. And I think everything we chose is cool. I think there are a lot of different builds you can do with the wizard, and I will definitely want to play with the wizard as more of a fighter mage kind of character. And with stuff like Lengrad Safeguard, the Sitzal Spirit Lands, you know, a lot of self buffs, and then just jump into the fight and just kill everything. It's something I think I would enjoy. But in terms of spells themselves, I do think there's a lot of synergy with Combusting Wounds. So you have like Chill Fog constantly ticking with this. You have Wall of Flame. You have the Tentacles all hitting at the same time. The Missile Salvo hits millions of times, and it's a lot of damage. So there are very, very powerful spells that you have access to as a wizard in this game. And I think using the Grimoire like I showed, this one here, Grimoire of Vaporous Wizardry, just makes it very, very powerful. It gives you one more spell cast for each level. It's something that I actually don't like, because it makes it so I don't really see a point in not using this Grimoire. Even if there are other Grimoires that have different spells that I wanted to play with, like the one from Ninagoth, the one from Console Hot, losing one spell per level is just... it's too hard, man. It's too hard. I cannot make that switch. So I kind of wish this wasn't here. And I kind of wish that the Grimoires were just like they were in PoE1, to be completely honest, but it is what it is. And finally, let's look over our main character here. So, on my main character, I have a lot of stuff on both sides. So, I have a bunch of active abilities on the Ranger side, mostly for shots. So, Wounding Shot, very good. Concussive Shot, very good. This one, I wouldn't put a point in here anymore. This Evasive Fire is not as good as I thought. I would just put it in Evasive role. Or maybe just have Escape or something like that. We have a lot of points in our Companion, which I feel like they were probably not needed. So, in terms of making Mr. Piggy safer, it is very good, because Mr. Piggy was actually an excellent off-tank throughout the entire game, something that I never even imagined would be possible in this difficulty. Having Mr. Piggy stay alive for more than 2 seconds, and he really impressed me. He really impressed me. So, defensive abilities for animal companions I think are very useful. Offensive abilities, not so much, because he doesn't deal a lot of damage. Maybe other pets like wolves or lions or stuff like that, maybe it can be handy, but for a boar, I think it's kind of a wasted point. In any case, what we have is more than enough. The Ranger side, what you really get here that's really useful is the Wounding Shot, the Concussive Shot, and then you have Driving Flight, which basically means that every shot you make bounces, so you're doubling your... not doubling because the bounce is not full damage, but still. It doubles your shots. And it also applies the debuffs. So if you shoot something like a wounding shot, it's gonna hit the main target and also the secondary target, and it will also apply the wounding shot. So very useful. Then just a bunch of stuff like marksman, gunner, two-handed style for more damage, more accuracy, and more damage. That's basically the ranger side. I have no active abilities for the pet. And on the rogue side, it's basically all damage and disables. So damage, going invisible to keep me safe. Blinding strike, if I were to start over, I would choose this one. Even though the debuff from the confounding blind doesn't stack with the debuff from flanked, I think this is still better overall than the gouging strike. Although, you know, this damage over here improves with might, so it actually deals more damage than it seems, but I think this might be better. Finishing blow, I think, is always useful. Just help out at the end, just killing someone off. And then, you know, dirty fighting makes sense. Deep wounds make sense. Improved critical makes sense. And death blows especially just makes a lot of sense. So very basic, high damage glass cannon character. It's what we have here. And I don't know. I guess I can... If I go into the items, it's gonna be... We're not gonna leave here today. Ah, of course, naturally, the most important thing in the game, right here, Mr. Chauncey. So I changed my pet to get plus 10% damage with range attacks, and the pet party-wide effect is plus 3 accuracy with ranged weapons, which I think fits very well, basically with my entire party, but mostly my rogue, naturally. The main weapons used are the Red Hand and the Essence Interrupter. I think these two make for a very solid DPS character. Over here, the Scimitar is the more important thing, because it increases action speed based on the number of phrases held. Shoti, the only real thing that matters, I think, is a lantern that just, you know, gives you more restoration power levels and inspiration power levels. It also grants Light of the Dawn Star, so very cool. The rest of the gear is kind of whatever you want to use. For Aloth, it's the Grimoire, the main item here to take into consideration. And that's basically it. Yeah, so those are my characters. So, to top this off, I guess, I think I've spoke about the story in that I do prefer the story of Pillars of Eternity 1 over the story of Deadfire. I think the first game has a better story overall. I think there are some things that the second game improved over the first one. I don't really pay too much attention to... Well, that's not true. What I mean to say is, better graphics are not what makes a game better or worse for me, but we can perfectly well see that the graphics in the second game are a lot better than PoE1, in my opinion. Chauncey. I enjoyed having the boat to go and travel around the islands. I didn't enjoy the random boat events with people arguing on deck, and then there's fish that's spoiled or not. There's not a lot of diversity, so it gets very repetitive. Ship battles are also interesting. It's a fun dynamic in the game. It makes for fun encounters, but at the same time, boarding the enemy ships is always the same thing, so it gets repetitive after a while. And naval battles are also always the same thing, so once again, it gets repetitive after a while. Exploration in the game, excellent. Side quests, excellent. The Forgotten Sanctum DLC, my god, excellent DLC. I love the factions. I mean, it's a game that I can very easily recommend to anyone that enjoys classic RPGs, enjoys a good exploration game with a lot of challenges. I do love this difficulty setting, the Path of the Damned. I do think that at the start, this difficulty is poorly balanced. So if we're talking about the Mage Island, the island with Port Mage, the Gorechi Street thugs and the Nguithan dig site, I don't think that's properly done. It's possible to do it, but it's silly in my opinion. It basically requires metagaming knowledge or hiring mercenaries and having all the buffs up. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense. When I first tried PoE2, it was right after finishing PoE1 twice on Triple Crown difficulty settings. So I felt I had, you know, a good grasp on the game and the mechanics that I could jump into PoE2 and be successful. And I was just getting slaughtered in the Nguithan dig site and the Gorechi Street. So I don't think it's properly balanced there. Once you get used to the game, you basically can even avoid those fights entirely just by using stealth. So it's not that big of an issue, but I still think it's silly the difficulty that they put in that place or in those places for new players especially. What else can I say? Yeah, I do agree that the ending of the game is a little bit underwhelming, especially because of the whole Ukaizo situation, more so than fighting Aethys. I do enjoy something that this game does very well, and I think it does it better than PoE1, in that you have a lot of different quests where you can take multiple approaches to dealing with those quests. So Fort Deadlight, for example, is an excellent showcase of what I'm just saying. Because in Fort Deadlight, your goal is to deal with Benwith. And you have so many options. You can do so much stuff there. You can help the guy steal the ship. You can blow up the Apsicord in the tavern. You can just straight up fight him. And I think you might even be able to become his ally. So there's just a lot of options in that quest. And the same is true for a whole lot of quests throughout the entire game. Archimir's Manor, for example. You have several ways of gaining entry. You have several approaches. You can deceive the imps. You can fight them. You can do so many things. And I think that's a really wonderful way of implementing quests in the game. So yeah, overall, like I said before, I love this game. Really, very, very enjoyable game. I'm very happy to have played it. I hope there was more. But yeah, Ukaizo is just that tiny section. I'm also very much looking forward to hearing from you guys. So, you know, please, feel free. Leave a comment below. You know, let me know what you think about the game. If you enjoyed it. Be it watching the playthrough, that's also relevant for me. Any kind of feedback on the playthrough. If, you know, if I talk too much, if I talk too little, if I'm annoying, if my jokes are crappy. Anything like that. Or if you enjoyed watching the challenges, the way that I did the quest, stuff like that. That's always welcomed information. And even if you play the game by yourselves, let me know what you think. What did you think about Pillars of Eternity 2? Did you like the game? Did you enjoy the ending? What did you think was good or bad? Where do you think this game improves over PoE1 and where it's worse than PoE1? There's definitely pros and cons to this game compared to the first one, for sure. So it's a relevant thing to talk about and to analyze, which I think is, you know, enjoyable to discuss. Like I said, I could go on and on for hours talking about this game, so I'm gonna have to skip some things naturally. So if there's anything that you want to know specifically, like I don't know, what gloves is Shoti using, something like that, leave a comment and I'll let you guys know. If there's any other question, suggestion, as I always say, leave a comment below. I love talking to you guys about these games. and learning what you guys have to say and what you share and anything at all, honestly. I also want to thank everyone who stuck here with me in the channel watching this playthrough. It's always very enjoyable to be playing a game that I'm loving, while also being able to engage with you guys. I don't know, getting certain explanations about mechanics in the game, or just learning random things all over the place. It just makes the entire experience all the better. Like I've said before on other games as well, making these videos for the channel is also quite special for me, because in a way it's forcing me, in a good way, it's forcing me to take in more of the game, pay more attention to the dialogues and the lore and stuff like that, because I'm sharing this with you guys. And a lot of times if I'm playing by myself and I'm not recording, and I don't know, maybe I'm not feeling particularly patient that day, or I just want to go into combat and I don't want to spend a lot of time in dialogue. You know, I skip things, I lose track of some things, and my memory isn't good anyway, so not remembering things while also skipping a bunch of them makes it so that I reach certain points in the game and I'm feeling completely lost. So making these videos does help out with just getting overall a better experience. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this series. I loved making it. I hope to hear from you guys. And, you know, as always, if you enjoy the content, consider subscribing. There's videos coming out every single day, be it for this game or any other game. And until the next video, stay safe everyone.